What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Garage Denali. In today's upload, we're going to be doing a quick little mod that I've been wanting to do for a while. As you guys know, I am an OEM Plus kind of guy, and I like to retrofit OEM parts on my 2014 435i. So in this case, we're going to be raising the car up, as you can see here, because we're going to be changing out the factory exhaust with an M Performance exhaust, as you see here. This one here is part of the M Performance power kit, usually sold as a separate item for the earlier cars with the N55 engine, as in my case. But if you have a B30 or a B58 engine, for example, it's part of the M Performance power and sound kit. So not only do you get the tune and the air intake and the decals and all that other cool stuff, but you also get the exhaust as well for part of the sound kit. So for right now, we're going to be installing this, and this is going to be pretty much a DIY on how to retrofit this. So this is already cut to size here, so this is more or less a direct bolt-on, a direct plug-and-play. So if you look underneath the car right here at your factory exhaust, you're going to see, if I can get the camera to focus, you're going to see a dimple right here in the factory pipe. So right here is where you're going to have to cut your factory exhaust, and then you're going to remove it off the exhaust hangers. So you got one on each side right here. And then on the driver's side of the car, you're going to have to unhook your flap for your valve right here. So just disconnect that. And in my case, we're going to be swapping the flap over to the new one, which is only held in with a couple of bolts, but nonetheless, that's going to go right here. And then I got some new chrome and performance exhaust tips right here in the box that we're going to install as well, since these ones are a little scuffed up. I did buy this used because OEM, it's a lot more money and it's good to buy used. But basically, our brand new chrome exhaust tips are right here. This is the part number right here. And in addition to installing this exhaust, we're going to need a clamp right here. So this is the clamp, and that's the part number for it right there. So in order to get that factory exhaust off, you're going to need to cut it. So basically what you can do is you can go to AutoZone and rent a cutting tool like I have here. So this cost me 50 bucks, but pretty much you'll get your money back when you return it. So we're going to cut the old one off, and then once we get rid of it, once we pull it down, we're going to have to file down the actual cut itself just to make sure it's all nice and smooth for the most part before we get the new one on. I do have a couple hacksaws here in case I'm not able to get through with that, and I have to saw the last little bit of it, so that's why I have those. And I got some silicone lubricant right there in order to make it a lot easier when we remove our exhaust from the hanger. So we'll just spray that, use a pair of channel locks just to get it off, and then the process to install it is the reverse. So should be a pretty simple DIY. So with that, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut the old exhaust off. So let's get started. Okay, so go ahead and grab your exhaust cutting tool around your pipe right here. I have this one set to the last setting right here. Next thing what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and squeeze the handles and then just move it up and down until you're all the way through. Okay, so I got the majority of the exhaust cut. It's actually really loose right now. You might be able to tell if I do that. What I'm gonna do now is I'm going to spray silicone lubricant on both hangers and let it soak for a little bit so that I can literally just use channel locks and pop this right off. And then at that point, the whole exhaust is ready to come down. And once it comes down, I can just kind of twist this off a little bit, since it's only just a tiny little bit left at the top that's holding this up. And then from there, we'll go ahead and transfer everything over that we need. In the meantime, while the fluid does its job, if you haven't already removed your cable, your plug for your valve, go ahead and do that. And then we'll go ahead and pop off the exhaust. All right, so I finally got the exhaust off of the rear end of the car. So what I did was I used the channel locks, and I basically squeezed together the, sorry, you can't even see that. I squeezed together the exhaust bracket. So basically this little nub that's sticking out. I basically squeeze them together just to get this started. And then what I did was, while being under here, I actually used my foot and I pushed against the pipe here, the muffler, the exhaust tip, just to get it to move a little bit. And then I did the same thing on the other side. So I pretty much got this loosened up as well. And once that was also kind of broken free, I pretty much pushed it to the one side just to get it off of this exhaust bracket hanger right here. And then I repeated the same thing on the other side. The exhaust dropped down a little bit. I twisted it to get it to break free from the pipe here, and that's it. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and pull this aside and swap over what we need to swap over. And here's a little side-by-side comparison. This is the old one right here, the factory N55 exhaust for F-Series cars. And here's the M Performance exhaust right next to it, just like that for comparison's sake. So right now, we're gonna go ahead and grab this actuator. We're gonna move it right on over, just a couple of bolts, and then we'll go ahead and get this mounted. So go ahead and grab a 10mm socket and go ahead and remove your actuator. Once you've got your 3 bolts taken out, go ahead and lift up your actuator, and we're gonna transplant it over to our new exhaust. You also wanna bring over this pin here, which actuates when the actual valve opens and closes. So carry all of this stuff over to the new exhaust. Okay, once we have that transferred over, we're gonna go ahead and install it on the car. Go ahead and deburr your exhaust right here before you go ahead and get your actual muffler mounted back up. Once you do that, go ahead and grab your bracket and get it slid onto the muffler. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and actually mount our exhaust. Alright, once you get it on both exhaust hangers, go ahead and try to align it the best way you can and slide on the actual bracket that goes over it. This might be a little tough to do it by yourself, especially, you know, when you don't have somebody to help you, or, you know, it's a good idea if you have a jack that you can actually use to lift the exhaust up and hold it in place. I just kind of rolled around under here a little bit, just using my knees and my legs to kind of help it keep it suspended so that I can get this slid on. And once you do that, go ahead and grab a 17mm socket and go ahead and tighten the 2 bolts here. The torque for these 2 bolts here are 38 Newton meters, so go ahead and get these torqued. In order to remove your old muffler tips, go ahead and grab a little bit of WD-40 or PB Blaster, whatever, and spray the little screw right here on the bottom that holds it on. Let it soak for a couple minutes because it is rusted after all. And once you're done, once you let it soak for a little bit, you can go ahead and remove it, unscrew it. After that, you are going to need a hammer or a mallet, so you can just hammer it from the back in order to pop it off. Once you get it loose enough, you can go ahead and twist them right off. All right, I got my old muffler tips off. This one gave me quite a bit of a headache. It was so rusted in here. You can see just how bad it is. It was so rusted in there. I tried a bunch of PB Blaster silicone lubricant, I probably should have used like a much more aggressive penetrating fluid, so that's my fault. So definitely use something more abrasive, like a PP Blast Rust Breaker or Rust Destroyer, something like that. But nonetheless, I got it off. I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the inside of this exhaust real quick, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get the new ones installed. Right. Once you did that step, go ahead under the exhaust if you haven't already and plug in your actuator. So let's do that right now. And once you hear the click, take a step back because you are done. So there is our M Performance exhaust installed. All right, guys, so one thing that I want to point out is when doing this retrofit, when you cut out your old muffler and when you put on the new one along with the exhaust clamp that you have, one thing that you want to keep in mind is see exactly how much length of pipe you have, because for whatever reason, when I did mine, the cut was not perfect, and basically when installing the exhaust, the muffler with its clamp to the actual, front part of the pipe, basically I had to pull the exhaust forward a little bit in order to get it to actually secure. And as a result, for whatever reason, it's almost like the cut on the muffler that I bought was a little too short, and the pipe that protrudes out that goes, towards the front of the car wasn't long enough. So as you can see here in this photo, what I had to do is I had to basically go to AutoZone and get a 3-inch inner diameter to outer diameter pipe extension, as you can see here, with another clamp. Basically, I'm just adding more pipe to the whole exhaust system, as you see here, in order to make up for the space that's missing. And then I put a new clamp over it, over that end. So this is what I had to do in my case. You may or may not have to do this depending on where you get your muffler from. I did everything exactly as outlined in the official documentation, cut at the dimple, and just reinstall the exhaust, because it technically is a bolt-on. But just one thing I wanted to make you guys aware, that if your exhaust doesn't 100% mesh up, then you might need to add more pipe in order to get it to work.